the Pittsburgh Penguins had a dominant win over the Colorado Avalanche on Thursday night. And for the Friday edition of the Locked On Penguins podcast, Pat and I are going to recap that win, plus get you all set for Penguins Senators on Saturday night.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Hunter Hodes. You can follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. And joining me as always is my co-host Patrick Damp. You can follow him on Twitter at SendHimForWet, and you can follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. Of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen / watch of the day. We are free and available on all platforms, and today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. So it's a Victory Friday pod here for you all. Penguins 4, Avalanche nothing, in what I thought was the game of the year so far for the Penguins. I liked how they looked against the Flames earlier on. I liked how they looked against the Capitals, but this one felt way different compared to those. I thought this was a total team win in all phases, offensively, defensively, goaltending, and special teams. Yeah, maybe we'll dump on the power play a little bit later. I don't think the power play was that good. PK, though, was outstanding overall. And it's funny. I think the Penguins coaching staff might have listened to our episode on Thursday, because I was the one that said I would not be surprised if the Penguins win this game. It would be a total Penguins game to win. And you were the one that pointed out how the Penguins were going to go about it, and they did just that.
Yeah, like you said, a happy Victory Friday for everybody. Also a happy 1989 day to all those who are celebrating. But you're damn right, man. That was absolutely awesome to watch because, like I said, and here was the thing. I actually had, little peek behind the curtain here, I actually had 2 columns ready to write this morning for KDKA, for Penguins Perspectives. And one was in case of a win, one was in case of a loss. And it was all going to be about what I wrote, what we talked about yesterday. And that's, this team's identity can no longer be one of high tempo, speed all the time, overwhelming forecheck. And that's not an indictment on the Pittsburgh Penguins. The league has caught up. It is the most copycat league of all the leagues. One thing succeeds and everybody tries to do it. Then when you win the first pair of back-to-back Stanley Cups in the salary cap era, everybody's coming for that crown. So, yeah, the Penguins are just by nature a little bit slower now these days, but the rest of the league has gotten faster. Everybody's fast now. It's just how the game's being played. And we saw last night exactly what I was talking about. With the exception of Riley Smith's power play goal, every goal was because this team committed to defense. They were able to back check. They broke plays up in the defensive zone, which led to odd man rushes. They were willing to back check and disrupt things in the neutral zone, which led to them going the other way and getting a scoring opportunity. And it wasn't just the goals. It was all of their scoring opportunities. They were in the right place at the right time, countering Colorado's system rather than trying to impose their own system. But they found a good mix where they weren't just sitting back. They were letting Colorado play into the system the Penguins wanted to play, and it shut down Colorado's attack.
And you saw that during the second Riley Smith goal, right? Brian Rust makes a really nice defensive play along the boards, gets the puck to Evgeny Malkin. Oh, look, you have a 2-on-1 going the other way. Gino, with brilliant patience to wait out that Avalanche defenseman, gets the puck to Smith, who makes no mistake. Boom, it's a 2-0 game. Going back to your point about the defensive aspect of the game, I really thought the Penguins toned their aggressiveness down in this game. They let it come to them. They weren't going to get into a track meet with the Avalanche. I mean, you don't want any team to really get into a track with the Avalanche, especially the Penguins with how old they are. But they let the Avs make some mistakes, and boom, they capitalized on them. I also thought the Penguins did a really nice job keeping the Avalanche to the perimeter for a lot of their scoring chances. Yes, did Tristan Jarry have to make a few really good saves? Absolutely, he did. But for the most part, I thought the Penguins did a really nice job keeping them to the edges of the offensive zone to make Tristan's job easier. And that's especially true on the penalty kill, where the Avalanche really didn't get many quality chances there. I thought the Penguins were decently aggressive on the PK. They took out that high danger area, that slot area as well, and it led to the result that they got. And I think this game overall, from a defensive standpoint, this is the blueprint for the Penguins to play defensively, at least going forward, or honestly overall.
And this also helps who we'll talk about him later in the show. What Tristan Jarry did. His job was easy. He didn't have to face a whole hell of a lot of grade A chances. So this is the formula I think the Penguins need to win this season. They need to have a commitment to defense. It can't be the Penguins of the last decade where defense is kind of optional. You got your guys back there who are pretty good. Your forwards aren't exactly Selke candidates, but this is the kind of win where if you play this kind of system, it's a way to counter and neutralize the teams that are faster than you, that do have deeper rosters than yours. Because I'll say this much, the fourth line last night was okay, but you played a disciplined enough game that they weren't really relevant. You didn't have to worry about them. You didn't have to wince every time they came over the boards, because the style of hockey you were playing helps them be, if nothing else, not a liability.
Right. And I also thought for this game, yes, it was toned down a bit in terms of aggressiveness, but this wasn't a boring game. Man,
not at all.
I don't think the Penguins are ever going to play boring hockey like a 1-3-1 or Barry Trotz hockey this year. Again, I don't think they're equipped to play that kind of hockey. But if this is the style that we see for most games, I think this team can win quite a few games this season, especially, we'll get to the third line right now, if the third line plays like that and continues to tell me to shut up. Because everyone that listens to this show knows I've been fairly critical of the third line this year. And even after that game against Dallas, I saw some progress, but I kept telling people, okay, let's see, because I still think they need another score. But for this game, Radim Zohorna was a one-man wrecking crew on that line. He was forcing turnovers in Colorado zone. He had a couple of grade A chances. One of them went off the post. Another one from right in tight. If he just elevates that puck a little bit, probably goes in the back of the net. I'll even shout out Drew O'Connor. I thought this was his best game of the season. He stole the puck twice in 20 seconds from both Devon Taves and Cale Makar. You can take a bow from that game, buddy. And then, of course, Lars Eller, he gets to tap in the second player from the bottom six to get a goal this season. Really nice game overall from the third line. It's great when this team, gets depth scoring, and we saw that in this one. Overall, the third line last night, underlying numbers-wise, when they were on the ice, the Penguins had 62.5% of the shot attempts, 1 goal for, 0 goals against, 53.3% expected goals for rate, 60% of the scoring chances. I'll take that any day.
That was a brilliant game by them, just because they did exactly what they needed to do, and that was provide a spark. They didn't have, Eller got a goal, and that's great, and we're never going to complain about depth scoring, but every time they were on the ice, they didn't quite dominate, but they brought the energy they needed to bring.
Right.
They weren't a liability. They weren't out there just defending. They weren't out there just keeping the Colorado Avalanche at bay. They were taking the game to them. Like you said, Drew O'Connor, along with the 2 steals from Devon Taves and Cale Makar, menace on the forecheck last night.
Absolutely.
What we have needed to see from him since preseason. He doesn't got to score 15, 20 goals. Again, wouldn't complain if he did, but all he has to do is do what he did last night and just be an energy guy. Throw some hits, big on the forecheck, bring the speed, and this team will be happy with that. I know people are hearing me say that, and they're like, but Pat, you said you didn't want to play that kind of game. Not all the way up and down the lineup for 60 minutes. But when the third line's on the ice, that's your energy line. That's the line you want to go out there and say, okay, everybody else has been playing pretty well, playing responsible. Let the dogs out of the cage. Let them go run. And that's exactly what they did last night. And it paid off both with a goal and setting up the top 6 to have success when they came over the boards.
I felt like I saw more shifts in the offensive zone from the third line last night than I did in the previous games combined that the Penguins have played thus far. The third line was cooking last night. And again, it's no coincidence that when Radim Zohorna has come up, he's provided a spark, and he should have made this team out of camp in preseason. There's no way you can send him down at this point with the way this line is looking. And again, it's a small sample size. I want to caution everyone at least a little bit, but right now they're shutting me. I think they're shutting Pat up as well. They're shutting quite a few people up right now. And I hope that continues. I hope this line continues to cook, to continue to shut me up. But I think that will do it for this first segment. Coming up in the second segment, Pat and I are going to get into Tristan Jarry's performance and why this was a big time game from him. Plus, Sidney Crosby, I think, heard a lot of us talking crap about him, and he took that a little personally on Thursday night. But before we get to that, we got to tell you all about Parkview Advance. As a business owner, you realize there are times when receivables might fall behind, but that doesn't mean you need to fall behind on vendor payments, payroll, or rent. For more than 25 years, Parkview Advance has helped businesses secure working capital from $5,000 to $1.5 million. Parkview Advance can improve your working capital in as little as 24 hours. It's a much easier process than you might imagine. We invite the many entrepreneurs that are locked on NHL fans to learn more by calling them at 203-675-0071 or go to parkviewadvance.com. If your business needs working capital, call Parkview Advance today. Parkview Advance, helping businesses with their working capital. Again, go to parkviewadvance.com. And we're not done. We got to tell you all about the J-Skates. It's a personalized emergency medication kit that contains 5 essential antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. You can also customize your case and add additional life-saving medications based on your unique needs. And that offers customizability for your J's case with dozens of add-on medications. Choose the medications that best fit you and your family's unique needs. All you got to do, go to jacemedical.com and enter code LOCKEDON at checkout for a $20 discount on your order. That's promo code LOCKEDON at jasemedical.com. All right, we're back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Hunter Hodes, joined by my co-host, Patrick Damp. Again, thank you all so much for making this your first listen/watch of the day. So I said this in my tweet last night. Tristan Jarry, take a bow, sir. Please take a bow. What a performance from the starting netminder for this hockey team. He flashed the glove on a save. I want to say it was in the second period where he kind of had a little bit of the windmill there where I was like, I don't know how you saved that, but that was a gorgeous save. Had another pad save where he stretched out a little later on in that period to rob another Avalanche player. He was on his angles all night, playing aggressive in the net. And outside of those big chances, I know he wasn't tested enough just because the Penguins played a really solid defensive-minded game on Thursday night, but when he needed to answer the call, he did, and then some. Hopefully this is the start of him really stringing together some good starts.
The Evgeny Malkin double minor at the end of the second.
Yes.
While the penalty kill did a very good job for the most part, keeping Colorado out of the high danger areas and keeping Colorado to the outside and clearing the puck, there were a handful of moments where they got some good chances during that 4-minute power play. And every time they got a good chance, Tristan Jarry was there. And I say this all the time. If there's one person in the Penguins organization who will never oversell things, it's Phil Bourque on the radio. And Phil Bourque could not say enough about how well Tristan Jarry was playing on the PK. And because I'm still trying to find ways to watch games on Sportsnet Pittsburgh, found myself going old school last night and listened to the game on the radio and then watched the highlights this morning. But Bourque had a lot of good things to say about how Tristan Jarry played. And then this morning, sitting here with a cup of coffee and watching the highlights from last night, never out of position. Didn't really get pulled too far out of his net on any moment. He was aggressive at the top of the crease, and he was deliberate with his decisions. And that's the biggest thing for him. He's at his worst when he hesitates. I know we all still have PTSD for that Islanders series where he gave it away. Everybody wants to talk about how it was a dumb play. And while it was, what made it worse is he hesitated.
Yeah.
If he would have attacked that puck, just gone up and cleared it, that probably doesn't happen. It probably gets out of the zone and they play on, and it probably turns into a 4 overtime game to where all of us are late for work the next day. It was because he went up, looked up, hesitated, and made the wrong play. Last night, definitive in his movements, definitive in where he wanted to go, definitive in how he wanted to attack the puck. So when he does that in his game, he's among some of the better goalies in the National Hockey League.
Yep, I agree with you on that. I thought he made the saves he needed to make. And when the Avalanche were pushing, especially in that second period where the Penguins have, let's say it, they've struggled in second periods this year, he was right there and made some big time stops. So kudos to him. Hopefully that continues. I assume he's going to get the start on Saturday against Ottawa. More on that a little later on in the show. Let's finish off this segment, though, with Sidney Crosby. He was looking a bit rough these prior 2 games, but I think he took all of that crap talking a bit personally for this one, had a really nice release to make it 4-0 for the Penguins, but basically put that game well out of reach at that point. But overall, I liked his aggressiveness in this game. He seemed to be more active compared to the prior 2 games. And whether it was 5-on-5, whether it was the power play, I just thought he played a much cleaner game in this one. This is the level that we need to see from Sidney Crosby going forward. And I assume he will because he's been so consistent throughout his career. It's so, I guess, jarring to see him have a couple games off. But I thought he really returned to form in this one.
Clean is the key word there. You hit the nail on the head with that one. You look at a lot of his play over the past week or so, it was just little things. He was missing passes. Passes were going wide. They were going short. He wasn't where he needed to be positionally in the defensive zone or the offensive zone. He was just a little bit off. And while he wasn't tremendous last night, let's not get that twisted. He wasn't great. He wasn't back to A+ Sidney Crosby form. Those little things that he was missing over the last week were starting to come back in his game. So that's an encouraging sign. And there was a shift in the third period. He took, I think, 2 slap shots at the net within 30 seconds.
I saw that, yeah.
Of itself. I know that's going to get made fun of. Oh, he's ripping slap shots. Ha, ha, ha. But that's, like you said, the Sidney Crosby you want to see, where he's aggressive. He's taking the puck to the net. He's not afraid to shoot. He's not afraid to make the decisive decision. So on his way back, let's hope Saturday is another get right game for him and he starts breaking out and becoming the Sidney Crosby we know he can be.
I feel like in that type of situation that you just described with those slap shots, he's feeling himself when he's doing that. Like, okay, I'm getting my groove back. I'm going to fire these on net. While they may not go in, there's probably a good chance that they won't. I'm still firing these pucks in the net, hoping for a good bounce or something like that.
And I've been saying that for years, that Sidney Crosby has an underrated slap shot.
He does.
He doesn't use it often, but when he does, he gets a hold of one.
He can fire that puck with his slap shot. I agree with you. I think it's a super underrated part of his game. And I made a mistake. One more thing before we had to break. I was pretty critical of Ryan Shea last Friday against the St. Louis Blues. I don't think he was that good. He looked like just a regular AHL call-up. A little bit better against Dallas. Still wasn't fully there. I thought he just enjoyed his best game as a Penguin on Thursday against the Avs. He made a couple of really strong defensive plays along the boards just throughout the game. I thought he was also very good at skating the puck out of trouble from the defensive zone into the offensive zone. He's starting to get a bit more comfortable overall as an NHL player, and he continues to play like that. I think he's going to continue to get more reps. So I was really happy with his performance too.
I was right there with you. I said he looked like just a typical AHL lifer playing in the NHL, and man, he's shut us up so far. This is making the most of an opportunity, and this is what you want to see when you're in a position like the Penguins franchise is. You want these guys who are not of a high pedigree, who aren't blue chip prospects, who aren't big name free agent signings, to show up, make the most of an opportunity, and be productive. And while Ryan Shea's not going to put up points, if he's going to be a solid, dependable 5th or 6th defenseman, that's found money.
I'm fine with that. Again, Ryan Shea, Penguins third line, Mike Sullivan, whoever else, continue to shut us up, please. But that'll do it for...
I'll gladly sit here and just sing their praises for an episode, for 2-3 episodes a week, because they're doing well. As much fun as it is to have hot takes when they're struggling, I would just sit here and talk about how they can win the Stanley Cup again.
I don't mind eating crow at all on this show. I have done it so many times. I mean, heck, when this team signed Cody Ceci, I thought the signing was terrible. I said as such on the show, and then he goes out and has one heck of a year for the Penguins before he goes and gets paid. Stuff like that, whole bunch of other stuff. I am perfectly fine with eating crow and looking like a complete dummy at times. I don't mind it, and I know you are the same there, but that'll do it for this second segment. Coming up to end the show, it's time to take a look at the Penguins' next opponent, the Ottawa Senators, who dropped a 3-2 decision to the New York Islanders on Thursday night, an Islanders team that continues to win despite only having Ilya Sorokin and maybe two good forwards, which is just, it's mind-boggling to me. I know I can't stand the Islanders. I never will. But before we get to that, we got to tell you all about Sleeper. A new NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities, and you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. You can do this by yourself. You can do this with your friends. Heck, you can even do this with your family, and you can do all other sports as well, like the NFL, NBA, MLB, and college football. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, Nathan McKinnon, Erik Karlsson, Igor Shesterkin, all these other guys. All you have to do is pick whether players like that will record more or less, basically, goals, assists, saves. You can even do plus minus if you want to. All you got to do, use promo code LOCKEDONNHL, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. All right, we're back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm Hunter Hodes, joined by my co-host Patrick Damp. So it's Penn Sens on Saturday night at PBG Paints Arena as the Penguins try to get back to 500. I actually should say both of these teams are trying to get back to 500. The Senators, as I teased, lost 3-2 on Thursday night to the Islanders, and they're a bit banged up heading into this game. Tomas Chabot, their best defenseman, he's going to be out for the next 4 to 6 weeks, so he is not going to be playing in this one. And the Avalanche will also be down another one of their top defensemen. They will be down Erik Brandstrom as he will be out. So that's a big opportunity there with Chabot. He brings a lot of offense. He's also pretty decent in his own end, but he's mainly known for his offensive capability. Overall, though, you look up and down the Senators lineup, it's a deep team, or it's a deeper team compared to last year. Brady Tkachuk is awesome. Tim Stützle is very good. Claude Giroux is always a thorn in the Penguin side, going back numerous years. Drake Batherson, Dominic Kubalik, who they got back in the Alex DeBrincat trade, Vladimir Tarasenko, Matthew Joseph, Josh Norris, etc., etc. That top nine is very good, to say the least. And I think for this game, you might see a similar game plan to how the Penguins defended the Avalanche. The Senators are not nearly as good as the Avs, but with how much firepower the Sens have, I do think the Penguins are going to have to play a little bit more of a defensive game if they want to win this one.
Agreed. I also think there will be a little bit more opportunity to be aggressive, to play a little bit more of a faster game, because you go without Brandstrom or Chabot. That's 2 of your 6 defensemen. That's a tough pill to swallow. And while they don't have the deepest system just yet, they do still have some good pieces waiting to come up. The other thing I look at is, and I feel like I say this a lot, is whether it's Jonas Korpisalo or Anton Forsberg. Don't like those goalies very much.
No.
I think they're fine enough. I don't think they're bad by any stretch of the imagination, but you're not looking at an Andrei Vasilevsky. You're not looking at one of who's the Islanders goalie? I just forgot. I brain farted.
Sorokin?
That's it. Ilya Sorokin. Like, you're not looking at guys like that. So between losing 2 of their 6 better defensemen and a couple other injuries, there's a good chance for the Penguins to build on what they did against Colorado. Play a similar game, but definitely take a little bit more of a chance when you have the opportunity. And this could be a nice, strong end to this homestand.
Yeah, I mean, I said it heading into that game against the Avalanche. The Penguins, I thought, had the goaltending edge going into that game because I'm not really that high on Georgiev. They definitely have the edge if Tristan Jarry starts, and I'm pretty sure he will, against one of Korpisalo or Forsberg. Korpisalo, in general, they signed him to that big deal over the summer where I kind of laughed at it because Korpisalo is getting quite a bit of money from the Sens. And I understand this is a team that's really trying to figure out goaltending. They've been a total mess at that position for the last several years now. But so far this season, he's 1-3 overall, 3.50 goals against average, .886 save percentage. Not good, to say the least. That's not even close to the level that we saw from him last year in Columbus and in Los Angeles. So the Penguins, if he especially gets a start, I think the Penguins will have a real opportunity here of potentially lighting Korpisalo up. I hope I don't jinx that right now, but he hasn't been good to start the year, and I think this could work in the Penguins' advantage.
You play the way you did last night because you're not playing a Colorado Avalanche level team.
Yeah.
The Penguins both did a very good job of getting chances in the first period and limiting the chances that Colorado got in the first period. This is a team that, like I said, they're losing a couple key pieces. They're going to be a little bit rattled coming into Pittsburgh. Golden opportunity to pounce on them early. Start the game the same way you did against Colorado. Play a little bit aggressive, get your shots on the net, try to build an early lead, limit them to the outside, make Tristan Jarry's job easier, have him get into a groove by facing 3, 4, 5 easy shots, easy saves, get him into the mix. And extremely winnable game tomorrow night.
Absolutely. I mean, again, I don't think the Senators have really been that good this year. And this is a team that's expected to push for a playoff spot this year with how good their top 9 is. Defensively, they're usually very good. I know they're without 2 of their best defensemen heading into this game. So they're a bit vulnerable, and they also just haven't been that good to start the year. Historically, the Penguins have played really well against the Senators over the last decade. They're 19-5-5 in their last 29 games against the Senators, and especially at home, they are 11-1 in their last 12 home games against the Senators. No, I am not trying to jinx people. I'm just trying to give you all the stats that I got from the Penguins' wonderful PR team. This is a team that the Penguins usually know how to play against. And one last thing. With how serious the Penguins took the Avalanche on Thursday night, I want to see that same urgency against the Senators. They played with some desperation against the Avs, right? Bring that same desperation against a team that's also below 500. Show me that consistency where you can start really stringing together some wins.
Agreed. That's the biggest thing. We know this as well as anybody. There are no nights off in the National Hockey League. No. None. I understand it's a lot easier to get yourself hyped up for a game against a Colorado, but you got to treat every game like it's a Colorado. You have to look at this and say, any team can beat us on any night. And with that in mind, Ottawa's a young team, a young, talented team. They're looking to make their mark. And now with a couple of injuries, they're looking to show that, hey, we aren't just a handful of pieces. We're a good young team. So this is a chance for you to push back on that.
Agreed overall. So we'll have to see what the Penguins do in this game against the Senators. Pat and I will have the recap for you all on Monday, plus get you all set for next week's games as the Penguins schedule. Again, it's going to start heating up here as we head into November. But I think that will do it for this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. Thank you all so much for listening to / watching this one. Again, we'll be back on Monday to recap this game against the Sens, see if they can get back to 500, plus preview the week ahead for the Penguins. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll talk with you all in a few days.